Brian Patton. Today we welcome Scarlett O'Hara guitarist Logan Burns to the podcast. At the time Logan and I chatted, Scarlett O'Hara had recently dropped their latest single, Redrum, which you will hear part of in this episode. Logan talks about the MySpace metalcore scene, the fashion, its rise to popularity, and being the last real CD era success. Then Logan talks about the band in 2026, how the scene has shifted, and what the future holds for Scarlett O'Hara. It was very cool to dive into a band and a scene that I wasn't really familiar with and a part of at the time, and it was really cool getting to connect with Logan. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of As the Story Grows. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome. You can find links in the show notes or over at asthestorygrows.com for our mailing list, our Discord server, and our Patreon page, where $1 a month gets you early access to every episode. And at $3 a month, you get the After Dark podcast and the Casual Metal podcast. Enjoy today's conversation with Logan Burns from Scarlett O'Hara. Funny, like whenever I get a press release, my thought is always listen to the song first to see if I like the song and not have anything influence me. And I'm like, okay, the single's dope. Let me read the bio, and it's long time metalcore vets. And I'm like, why have I never heard of this band? And so I Googled, and your picture, the old pictures came up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why.
Yep, time, man.
Which it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier today. I came up through the era of Jinkos and triple XL shirts. So whatever, we had our dumb thing too. But it's do you ever look back and think about that MySpace core scene and just obviously there's a what were we all thinking, but it's do you just look back as part of the history, or just we sold out to be this thing, right?
No, I mean, man, it's another lifetime ago at this point. But it was insane. I mean, it was its own era. Pretty soon they're gonna. I feel you know how they have that what were the '90s memes right now with the Goo Goo Dolls song over it. Yeah. They're gonna be doing that in another 5 years or something with Sticklier, something like that. But yeah, it was a really interesting time. We were super fortunate to be there right when it was happening, right in that first, group of rise core bands and everything else that eventually, kind of defined the genre and all that. So we were really lucky. We were super young at that point. Some of us were 16, 17, if you can believe it. We got the deal from Rise our sophomore year in high school. So they actually waited for us for 3 more years to finish high school to go out and tour and everything. And just kind of getting to play with all of the established bands already that were, playing big shows and all that in that MySpace era, taught us a lot and really kind of exposed us to the pro, touring scene and everything. And, we still take a lot of that, the sound that we had from that period. I mean, its DNA is still in some of the newer songs. Yeah. Absolutely. We've shifted and everything, just as musicians naturally do. If you're in a band for, 18 years at this point, like us, it's still, it's tough to put ourselves in that same mindset, as we did in Lost in Existence, that 2010 album, or our 2008 EP or anything like that. But, as much as we do, we try to incorporate that sound still. And, you can hear, for example, in one of our earliest songs that we had, Make Your Own Karma, some of the breakdown elements like that are directly in Redrum, for example. Yeah. So there's a nice, lineage from, MySpace era to whatever we're called now, metalcore, or whatever it is. The names change, but most of our DNA is still kind of in it.
Yeah. With age and time, it's when the first time you see the video for Stickly, I was old enough to be like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And like, but it's like, we should have been like, it's really cool that there's a whole younger generation who has like this bed of heavy music that they can get into and is like popular on this level instead of just like trashing all of it. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was wonderful, dude. I was one of those guys, you know, with the super big V-necks and everything, doing all with the swoop, like the 2008 MySpace starter pack was me. But yeah, you know, seeing the videos now and everything, they're certainly dated, but you know, we didn't have Unreal Engine and all the crazy stuff we have now that you can basically, you know, spit out a mid-tier, you know, movie quality with limited budget now is what we're capable of, and it's just insane. But it was all DIY back then for the most part, and then, you know, the labels came in and kind of industrialized everything and you know, kind of set the standard for what needs to be. But it was a fun time for sure. I loved it.
Yeah. What was the reason behind the band's kind of initial breakup and like just like putting the band aside, going on a hiatus?
So, you know, just being like, you'd have to go way back. And with Scarlett, you know, we all started when we were like 15. And by the time we had already got to the point where we took a break and everything, it was, I mean, our entire high school was like a weird kind of simulated experience, because on the weekend we'd be, you know, in a completely different city, super far away, playing shows Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and then be at school on Monday. And then we'd do that for, you know, sophomore, junior, senior year. And then we went out heavy with Rise. We toured with Motionless, with Attila, with What Was Me. You know, did some really extensive touring on that end. And then, you know, just life kind of happened. People, attitudes and everything, just going through that weird, like, adult phase from being a kid and everything. And some people's priorities just sort of shift and everything. And that's mainly what it was. Some people want to do other things and others want to pursue, you know, just for example, a specific sound. And it kind of just did that. And we had just kind of come to the agreement, like, we'll just take a little break off for everything. Yeah. And then that, you know, took on its own thing. But we did come back, you know, and with a song maybe in like 2015.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until 2018 that we really like solid. Like we haven't quit since 2018 at this point. With a bunch of, you know, with 2 full lengths and then a handful of singles since then.
Yeah.
So, but we're back heavy. It's all the original guys still, minus you know, Eddie the vocalist and Renee, but it's still myself, Arnie, Alec, the guys who've been there since, you know, the first EP.
Yeah, it was funny. I was reading a Reddit post and people were like, it's not even the same band anymore. Other people were like, it's everybody but the vocalist. Like, chill out. And then it's just a list of bands who it's like, here are bands where no original members exist anymore that you love. So
yeah, and I mean, we get that a lot, but I think some of it's just due to the, like, when they see us, they don't really even physically recognize that we're the same people.
Right.
You know, part of that is, you know, they'll get that a lot with our drummer, Arnie. You know, in most of those pictures that you're seeing online from that period, he was like 17, you know, so he's 33 now. So there's going to be some, you know, some changes, but for the most part, you know, it's the same, you know, songwriters, guitar, drums, everything that have been there since that first EP. We're still here, whether they want to accept it or not.
Yeah. Because the band started so young, I assume you all had like really supportive parents in on it, or were there like tensions where like parents were like, you're ruining your life?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. Our parents were super supportive. We got really lucky with that. Just, you know, because most parents, obviously, when you're 16 and you're telling them you got to go play in Dallas or in freaking Oklahoma or somewhere like that, they're going to be like kind of questioning about it. But ours were super cool about it. You know, my dad's a rocker. My mom is too. So they really encouraged it. We kind of just, you know, the thing that we ran into the most was having school issues. But,
yeah,
you know, we were able to get around that, and everybody, you know, at the end of the day, all of us graduated from college and have, solid degrees and everything. So it worked out, and we were able to do that while, still doing the band, and, thank God for online courses and everything. But no, there was really, not a lot of tension. It was just more of the fact that, like, you're 18 and you're going to go on the road now, like for 2 months on your own, and you're driving and stuff. So, the concerns were more on like safety rather than like, what's the point or anything like that. So, I mean, and I should add, during those real early days when we would still be in, high school, we'd have to play at areas that like we couldn't be there if there wasn't like an adult to sign off or anything like that, and accompany us and all that. And that was always, my dad or my mom, somebody like that. So they grew up with the band as well.
Yeah. The kind of MySpace metalcore era was the last, maybe the last hurrah of the CD era of music, and all these bands were signing stupid deals that like would eventually crash out. Like, how has that adjustment kind of been, coming back and releasing music now in a mostly digital platform where, you're not paying for as much a studio, everything's probably more in-house, and you have this control, and you don't owe a record label millions of dollars now, but like, people aren't buying music the same way. So
no, totally. I mean, it is certainly an adjustment, because, when we were in it, everybody was getting signed. Like, if you were playing for a while and you had a solid fan base and everything, more than likely, you could get some sort of deal. All of them, you nailed it, end up being 360s and killed a lot of groups early, but labels were still giving out deals, relatively often. And it seems now, even bands with crazy stats, with Billboard charts, with, tons of people on Spotify and everything else, the deals are just not there anymore. And the ones that are, a ghost of what they used to be. Just due to the cost, I guess, of recording coming down so much. Everybody has a DAW now and some sort of recording setup. And, with Neural and all the other guitar sims and everything, you can get a really solid sound, at your house, as opposed to before, when you'd have to mic up in a sound treated room, and you'd need multiple microphone positionings and everything. So, because that's how we recorded our first album with Chris Crummett. We, went to a really nice studio in Portland, and it had the full, control and tracking room with, the Dream equipment and everything. And that was for our first one. But now, we're able to get the same product, essentially. As long as you're using a good mixer, and our mixer's been Joel Wanasek since, 2014. He's amazing. He's like the authority on rock and metal mixing right now. So can't go wrong with him. But as far as like tracking and everything, we do a lot of that here. And it does reflect overall in the industry, but it's just a lot harder now.
Yeah.
Way harder. There's a lot of bands that like you'll scratch your head and be like, why are these dudes not like, back in the day they'd be on Rise or something, or on Fearless, but now they're independently doing it. And it just speaks to the overall, competitiveness and changing of the industry. And it's a weird time now. And now throw in the AI aspect of all of it, and that's just a whole other thing to, unravel later on.
Yeah. How has it been? I know the last few years have really seen a lot of bands come back to life. This I don't, whether it's the various festivals, all these bands from that MySpace era having this second life and new records. Have you found that for Scarlett O'Hara, or has it just been like, maybe you're one of those bands a little less forgotten?
With Scarlett, we occupy a weird space, because people, when you're like, we're Scarlett O'Hara, have you heard of the band? If you're a fan of the scene, more than likely, they've said yes to some degree. And then the issue is really on them not knowing about like the new music and everything, which I guess that's just the algorithm pumping out still the the old songs that they have, better analytics on or something like that due to, legacy or whatever. But it's I don't know. It's just one of those deals where everybody's still just trying to figure out how to operate in today's time. But that shift back in with I would say it happened in maybe 2020 or not 2020, but after 2020 opening in 2021 is when I really started to see like another big push of all the bands that you're kind of mentioning coming back and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a big part of it was there was a new kind of focus on rock festivals.
Yeah.
We had Welcome to Rockville and Louder Than Life and Incarceration, all these big Danny Wimmer Presents festivals and everything. And they're, I guess, catering more towards a modern metal crowd too, as opposed to strictly just doing like the legacy act kind of stuff which makes sense because those bands are the ones that sell high tickets and everything, and you're kind of risking it with some of the new bands. But it's really nice to see Bring Me and Bad Omens and all them headlining the same festivals as like Metallica and everything else. But with us, I mean, shoot, we've been doing it still since 2018, so it's been slowly catching on. We're still in it. We've been doing a bunch of those festivals that I just said. We did the 2022, 23. Went back on the road and everything. So it's certainly still there. And when we go out, the fans still kind of come out and they know all the songs and all that. So we're lucky. We're waiting for that. That right person to say that, hey, we can make some good money off of these guys. Yeah. Send us out because we're ready.
Yeah. You recently released this new single, Redrum. You've put out EPs, you've put out singles. How have you found your place kind of in the music industry, whether it's dropping a single here, whether it's prepping for an EP? Like, have you found different things hit different ways, or is it just kind of like the way the band operates? You can release things however and whenever you want, and you're not really gaming it that way.
Basically, I mean, there's the waterfall strategy and stuff. There's different release, tactics that bands and labels utilize right now. But, we're doing it all independent at this point. Our last two, Overthrown, our full-length release, was released independently. So on that, we kind of just did a 3-song release and then did the whole album. And I kind of, I'm a real analytical person. I'm kind of OCD like that. So I look at things, and I learned a lot from that release and doing it like that. And for me personally, and for the band, I didn't like how, releasing only 3 and then you put out your main album or something. Some of them will inevitably be missed.
Yeah.
They won't have their spotlight or something like that, as opposed to if you release them as singles. So I'm leaning more towards right now. I'm going to release singles and everything, and then talk about an EP or an album maybe after the fact. But what we're planning on for the future right now, we have a bunch of singles.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just kind of give each one of them their own spotlight and equal time for people to kind of consume and everything, and not just skip it over.
Yeah.
The last track of the album always kind of hits, and you can see it in the the data when you go and you look at it. So there's things that work and some things that don't.
Yeah, it's a shame because there have been so many albums I've listened to this year where it's like you get to the back half of the album and it's like these are all the best songs on the record, but if you look at the data on like Bandcamp or Spotify, the longer the album is, like that decline is like people's attention is gone. It's just like those are the best songs.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I feel like on our last full length, some of the better, like the best song in my opinion is track 7. Right. And you look at it and the data's not there and everything, and you're just kind of like, why? But it's just the fact that you're already on halfway through it. Let me listen to something else. But we're just going to try a different route this time and see how it hits. Yeah.
One of the things listening to the last full length and the new single is like, there's definitely elements incorporated from like or what seemed to me, what is happening now in like the metalcore, the heavy space, how much are you like paying attention to what is happening when you're writing and composing versus how much is just natural and what you want to do?
Sure. I mean, it really depends. Like, so on Overthrown, like you did, kind of notice it, I'm sure. We were working with Andrew Bayless as our producer, and he works with, all the mega bands in the scene and everything. And, it's just part of it that his influence and everything is going to kind of creep in. And when you're working with somebody like that, like a mega producer at that point and everything, you're kind of going to them for their expertise and for their touch and everything, kind of get that their signature sound in a way. And Andrew, he works with like Nothing More and his, some of the Bad Omens dudes and other bands.
Yeah.
So he's really in tune with what is current in like the mainstream, selling Octane kind of sound. And so when we went to him and Eric Ron as well, who's another big one, he does I Prevail and like Slaves, Johnny Craig, all of those guys. They have a very definitive kind of sound, and you're like, oh, that was Eric Ron, similar to the way that like Joey Sturgis did back in the day. Like you would know right off the bat just from his production that it was a Joey Sturgis track. And we kind of leaned into it with those two, but on this latest one that we did, we self-produced it with our front of house guy that goes on the road with us, Josh Lopez. So we had full, creative control, and we really didn't go into it thinking that we want to write the song so that it'll come out on Octane or anything like that. We had really been wanting to kind of go like a little bit heavier than we had in a long time. So that was definitely like the main goal. And then, just some other fun stuff like using 8-string guitars and really kind of leaning into like a cybercore kind of vibe. I'm super into like, Cyberpunk 2077 and, Neo Tokyo, like futuristic aesthetics and everything. So it kind of just lined up perfect, and we kind of just ran with it. And, any ideas that we might've been reluctant to try with Andrew or Eric, just because, we're there for 2 days and we have to make sure that the song that we're writing is, the main one, because it's like, it costs a butt ton and everything. So, so with these releases, we didn't really have to worry about that. And we were able to write for, all of 2024, most of 2025, and just kind of get a big list of songs and then whittle our way down, the list and find the best ones that we like the most. So that's where we're at right now.
Nice. That's rad. It is funny when people complain about certain producers. It's like, I know everybody's like, oh, Jordan Fish produced this, so it's going to sound like whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but it's going to be amazing because everything he produces slaps, right? Like,
yeah, and that's why you do it, and it helps totally with like radio play too, because the program directors know that, the guy working on the song and everything has had 10 other successful songs. So it's just part of it.
Yep. You have a bunch of singles you're dropping this year, but what's the plan for, playing shows or getting on the road? Is that something you hope to do?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely talking about it already with our team. Just trying to get that lined up. More than likely, it'll we'll start off with like a Texas run, and hit all the big cities here because we have our fan base and everything we're from Texas, so it's a good trial run to get out there again. But absolutely, we have some plans for the new stuff, and I'm hoping to maybe do some sort of like body of work EP drop thing once we're done with all of it kind of show. So we're certainly talking about it. It's just kind of getting all of the stuff ready for the road, and that's its own monster. But we'll be back out soon.
Yeah. Have you guys made the switch to the fully digital setup for your live performance?
Oh man, any new equipment, I am the biggest gear nerd out there. Like I work with Brad from BTPA and Circle 3, just in case, another company. like extensively on our back lines and our rigs and everything. So yeah, our rig, we love the Brodeo engine, and I mean we're full digital, but we run Kemper power rack, so we do have a power amp in them, so we do still monitor on stage because I hate a dead stage kind of deal where the front row only hears drums and everything. So you still get punched in the chest, but yeah, no, we've gone the M32C for our in-ears and the whole rack. But the guys over at BTPA are amazing for gear. I don't know if you're into that, but they make it just plug and play and reliable for night after night. Before we were using in our I want to say in 2018 when we were on our Brodeo tour for that album, we were still using tube amps. Alec, myself, and the other guitar player, we were both running PV 6505s, and on the same night, both of them blew. I don't know. The power was faulty. It was up in like Pennsylvania or something, in one of those, where the electrical is put together with toothpicks, and something happened. It blew, and we had to borrow the other band's amps and everything. And the next day, we went over to Guitar Center and bought two more amps just to return them at the end of the tour. You know how it goes. Guitar Center special under that 30-day period. Yeah. But once we got back home after that, that was it. I was like, I'm not doing tubes anymore. Like, it pissed me off, and we've been running the digital ever since, and I love it. Nice.
It's funny though, I saw Prada a few years back, and it's like the computer wouldn't boot, and the show was delayed for like half an hour while they tried to get the computer working. It's like same thing, right? Like everything has problems.
Yeah, and that's a big fear of mine though. I run everything on our set redundant, so we have two MacBooks on a Play Audio 12, so if one fails, it just seamlessly switches to the other. And same thing for the Kempers and everything else. So, short of a full venue blackout, we'll be able to independently run.